What's going on, y'all? Welcome to episode 28 of the Speak Up Sports Podcast with Cass, Chris, and Shad. What's going on, fellas?
I'm all
What's
good.
up,
I'm
y'all?
all good over here.
Yeah,
What up,
what's
Ham?
up, man? Hey, shit about to shake.
Shit is about to shake. You know what
Shit
shake
is
is? I
about
see
to
you though in
shake.
that Adidas tracksuit. Looking fly. Nigga. I see you know I'm gonna say something every time.
Big money.
That shit different over there.
Oh my god.
But shit, speaking of money, speaking of shit about to shake, obviously, as we've talked about over the past couple weeks, we got the combine and we just went through the combine. Big week in the NFL, especially in the NFL offseason for the drafts. The draft prospects that showed out for the rumors that we mentioned, and a lot of rumors have been flying, and we'll get into a little bit of that today. But to start, with the combine, some boys made some money this weekend. We talked a little bit about how, the combine's the combine and it's not going to overtake the film, but there are some things that you can show on, during the combine that'll make you be like, all right, let's check some of this stuff back out. One of the most not surprising things was, and congratulations to Xavier Worthy on breaking the 40-yard dash record, running a 4.21 this past weekend. But in terms of combine winners or guys that kind of showed out, did something that you were surprised about, who are some guys that did that for you?
I can go. Well, I guess not going by position. That'll probably take too long. But I guess as far as receivers go, besides Worthy, who congrats on that time for sure. Crazy fast. I mean, but he was only $165, so but of course Brian Thomas Jr. Running that 4.33, especially at that height, weighing 40-something pounds more, 41 pounds more than Worthy, is definitely nothing to scoff at. And I was saying, I think I said it last week, these guys are making 4.4, 4.45, 4.44 look slow. It's kind of crazy how it is. I think I forgot how many was sub 4.3. I mean sub 4.4 in this combine. I think 9 receivers or something, 9 players in general. So that's crazy to see. These guys are fast as hell, man. You got Ladd running 4.39, huge for his stock.
Yeah, I told y'all that was about to show out.
Definitely on the defensive line. Of course, they started off the first day. Well, they started off, with the workouts. Brandon Fisk got all the hype. He pretty much dominated in all
the FSU guys,
every workout that they did. Yeah, honestly, Verse went crazy. Dallas Turner running the 4.47, 4.46 official, crazy fast. But I think as far as winners and losers, I mean, definitely more in the trenches, more than any other position, I guess. Because for those guys that did the receiver drills and stuff like that, I feel like after the 40, it was kind of oh, okay, we're just gonna see how you move, but it's not really we're not taking too much stock into the rest of the shit for their draft position and stuff like that. So I mean, it was good to see those guys kind of go out there and show out. Anybody stand out to you, Chris?
I mean, edge rushers, man. Not only a couple of them, had some decent 40 times, but their drills, they were going crazy. Even all the top prospects, and that kind of makes me upset, with the few people that decided they didn't want to do certain things or didn't do things at all. It's come on now, this competition, it was exciting to see the edge rusher. I'm gonna just say that, seeing them do the all their drills. I watched thoroughly all their drills. I'm talking about the top prospect. They showed out, so I can really fuck with that.
Because their drills, I feel for the edge rushers, their drills are kind of more set up to show what they can do in game. As far as the I forgot what the one with the circles where you have to bend around the corners and stuff like that.
Like a figure 8.
Yeah. That type of stuff it translates. You can just see it translates. So it was good to see that.
Also, as you mentioned, Ladd, you guys mentioned Dallas Turner, you mentioned the edge rushers just in general, so I'll throw Chop Robinson in there as well. But like y'all said, all the receivers, for the most part, ran pretty fast. It's hard to take stuff away from the quarterbacks, but the quarterbacks that actually did throw Penix threw pretty well. I thought JJ McCarthy threw pretty well. Bo Nix was all right. Spencer Rattler was all right. He did show, his cannon a little bit. Joe Milton was very kind of erratic, but he got an opportunity to show off his cannon as well.
He did that for the crowd.
So I'm so glad that you mentioned that. Man, the best thing about the combine, I think this past year when Xavier Worthy broke the record, was just the fact that all the fans were also into it. Like as soon as he broke, like they were all anticipating and just hearing like everybody like cheer for it, because the fans have just recently been able to get into the combine and stuff like that. So that was actually like I thought that was a pretty dope moment. Like seeing him get hype about it and everything, which is why, I'm still a little disappointed that the other players like Caleb, Marvin, and all those guys didn't end up working out. Even though they were present, stuff like that. But the guy, that I would say is probably the biggest winner. I don't really want to get into losers because, some people have bad days. Some people are running through injuries, stuff like that. It does suck for some of the guys to find out that they did have injuries during, like Kool-Aid, finding out he has an injury. But Quinyon Mitchell, bro, I mean, damn, like what a off season he's having, bro. Like what a off season he's having. And at this point, a lot of people are pointing having him as the first cornerback to go between him and Arnold. So, I would say he was probably the biggest winner to me just because it's just like a continued it's always great when you really see somebody stand out from start to finish throughout the draft process, especially when it's somebody from a school like Toledo that's not, in the limelight. It's a great thing to see. So he would probably be my biggest winner. But outside of that, we also got winners that weren't necessarily in the combine itself. We got Russell Wilson finally officially getting released. He might not sound like a winner, but he's still getting paid there. I'm sure he got out of a situation that he wanted to get out of.
That's right.
Another thing that we've started to see is also we obviously went past the franchise tag day. We saw Snead, Pittman get franchise tag, Josh Allen. Brian Burns got the exclusive franchise tag, so there's an opportunity for another team to trade for him. But while the Panthers still get the compensation if necessary, Jalen Johnson, Justin Madubuike, and Antonio Winfield as well, Antoine Winfield Jr. Was there any surprises there in terms of the franchise tag for y'all?
As far as who got tagged or who didn't? Oh, sorry.
I was just about to say before the franchise tag. We talked about it last week about, Russ. But I just can't believe they would accept the, dead cap money. $85 million? You might be able to stretch that over 2 years or however many years, but still though, that's crazy. But go ahead, I just want to get that out.
Nah, they definitely burnt that bridge last season, and you just gotta eat it. It is crazy, man. That's like to $85 million, and there's ways you can break it up and have like 1 year you pay more. I don't know which year they're gonna do that yet, but Broncos, man, I don't know. We'll see what they do. But yeah, as far as franchise tags go, it was pretty much on par with what most expected, I would say. I don't think like Snead was probably the smartest one to tag, because you already, even going into the deadline, you were already talking about him seeking a trade and stuff like that. So that makes sense on his side, especially like Justin Madubuike from the Ravens. They had to tag him. It's like none of it was surprising, I would say. As far as who could have got tagged, maybe I'm a little surprised that like the Giants let Xavier McKinney walk like that. But again, that's the price of doing a deal with Daniel Jones that you did last year for no reason. But other than that, I don't think anybody else was like, oh, they should have been tagged. Like maybe Christian Wilkins, but like they let, that's, I don't know what the Dolphins are doing really. They're just revamping their whole defense, it seems like. So I guess we'll see how that goes with them.
Changing up the defense a little bit, making some cuts, but they also got to prepare for that to a contract because it seems like they're all in on doing that. So that's also something that they got to look for, and especially with some of their they bring in Bradley Chubb over and some of the other guys that they paid. The cap's real. we're seeing it. We saw it with Buffalo. Shit. It seems like they released damn near half their team.
Which is crazy, not to cut you off, the fact that, they upped the cap. They just upped the cap. Like, and it's still like, we seeing like, wait, honestly, a lot of these moves I didn't see coming. Like, I mean, like you just said, Trey White, they let him go. I mean, even though the reports are that they might, sign him back, but still though, release him, release Poyer. I mean, like, folks making moves. Like, it about to be crazy for real.
It was crazy because like this morning, you going over the cap, and they were like negative 51 under, and they made all these moves in the same day. Now they're like only like $1 million under, and they're going to continue to make a couple more moves. But it's like crazy how fast that shit could change.
Mm-hmm.
These guys are on it, man. These cap gurus that for these teams are like, it's honestly impressive how they navigate this shit and do all these restructures. It's a lot of math in this that it's way too much that I want to get into.
Yeah, stuff that they did, even to your point, like Buffalo trading a guard, cutting their center, re-signing a guard to an extension with the plan to move another guard to center. Stuff like that is like, it's foresight, and that's how you build good teams. But even like Seattle, both your starting safeties are now gone, and both good players as well. Obviously Jamal Adams has had a lot of injuries, so some people view it as a disappointment because they traded a couple first-round picks for him. But it's gonna be. I mean, we're still gonna see some more players. I mean, a lot. We still got we've got Monday when the legal tampering period starts, and then the official first day of the league year is a week from today. So we'll obviously start to see some free agent signings, but we're gonna see a lot of people cut from now. That I wouldn't be surprised if we see a star or two traded away. There's been rumors of, obviously we know about the Snead stuff with the franchise
especially
tag
from the Chargers.
Yeah, the Chargers haven't made anything. They haven't done anything yet. So
anything moving. So they're definitely got something going this weekend for them.
And then, there was mentions of Marshawn Lattimore. So the Saints got to make some moves and do some stuff as well, because they're forever under the cap, it seems like. But in terms of making some moves, man, QB carousel. We've heard a lot of rumors after the combine, as we mentioned. Some people possibly moving to some places. Some people possibly getting traded. We got a lot of veterans that, obviously, with free agency coming up, we've got a lot of available quarterbacks, or presumably available quarterbacks such as Mac Jones, Ryan Tannehill, Russ, obviously, Kirk Cousins, who will be probably the top quarterback in free agency, Justin Fields, and Jimmy Garoppolo with his suspension and the situation going on with him. Where do you think those guys land? Starting today, we got a week before the league year starts. I mean, so before y'all start, I personally think that one by one. That's what I was gonna say. I think Kirk is gonna be like I said, I think Kirk is gonna be the number one quarterback. So I'm thinking that he's gonna be the first domino to fall, and then after everything after that is just gonna go. So I mean, we can go ahead and start with the head of the snake, man. Kirk Cousins.
Captain Kirk. All right. Of course, there's been a lot of news and a lot of reports coming out saying that, first that he's looking for homes and schools in Atlanta. Yeah. And it's reports that it's really just a 2-team race between Atlanta and Minnesota for him. It's weird because, like, I mean, technically you can't agree to any terms or anything like that. Like, nothing, you're not supposed to, you know what I mean? So for it to be as progressed as people making it sound, or as a done deal as people making it sound, it's definitely some tampering going on. But Kirk and I haven't fact checked this, but I heard Kirk and Desmond Ridder had the same agent, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, I think I really don't see Kirk leaving. And I know, like, the talk is Minnesota drafting a quarterback and getting off from Kirk because they got to pay JJ and all that. But it's something about all this smoke. I feel like it's too much. I feel like it's too much noise around it where it's like, all right, now, like it's a little bit of cap to this shit. So I think he ends up staying. I think it's all bargaining and playing your cards right. But I think that he ends up staying in Minnesota. Okay. Chris, what you think?
That boy Kirk out of there, boy. Coming to the ATL, boy. I mean, I don't know. That is kind of crazy when you think about it. Like all the smoke you hearing is like, damn, like how much y'all really talking? I mean, where the legal tampering shit at? Y'all just know it all. But
it's like,
I mean, I guess for me, y'all in a weird position as far as y'all draft pick, and it's like, I mean, yeah, you can go trade for Justin Fields, but I mean, you still gotta hope Chicago is whatever Chicago is trying to ask for him, and then. I still think Chicago, they have the leverage. They still got a number 1 pick, and they got another pick, so they not. I mean, they can do what they want at this point. So I think it's more so y'all are in a weird position to where you have to make a decision on quarterback. I mean, most of y'all Falcons fans would agree that y'all don't want Ritter back. That's cool, but y'all have to make a decision. So I think y'all will go for it. I think y'all gonna get Kirk Cousins. I think y'all make that move. I mean, you might not want it, but I don't see what else y'all can really do.
I don't absolutely hate it. But it just wouldn't be my first choice. That's all. But you're right. You're 100% right. At the 8th pick, you're in no man's land. It's a distance between the top 3 picks where the top 3 quarterbacks are expected to go. And now there's talks to even, teams moving up to that 4 or 5 pick to scoop up the 4th quarterback on the board. So, I mean, you're kind of like, you don't want to wait till draft night to fix your quarterback position. I think that's like, you don't, as just everything that I'm hearing is not, they're not going to do that. You know what I mean? So you're either going to try to trade up now in these next week or so, or go with Kirk or Justin. I mean, it is a lot of smoke to it. I get it. I mean, but if you're the Falcons looking at this, and before you go, Shy, sorry, you're the Falcons looking at this, you're talking about getting the 36-year-old quarterback coming off an Achilles injury. I get the risk. There is a lot of risk to it. There's a lot of risk to all of these options, really. But it's just funny to me that you go from 36-year-old Matt Ryan to, and I talked about this during the season too, but we were talking about like Ryan Tannehill when Arthur Smith was here. 36-year-old Matt Ryan, and talking reports about drafting Justin Fields or whatever back in 2021 or wherever that was. To come full circle, and you're talking about another 36-year-old quarterback or Justin Fields. It's kind of crazy how I just came back like kind of full circle like that. It's not good. It's not good. But I'll let you get into it, Shaq. I know you got to add some more shit to this. Oh, man.
Kirk Cousins is, like I said, I think he is the head of the snake. And obviously, I think the two biggest quarterbacks that could be on the move are probably Kirk Cousins and Justin Fields. And I honestly think that both of them are kind of intertwined in a sense, because I do think that basically where one doesn't go, the other will go. I think they will end up. So basically, if Kirk ends up with the Falcons, I think Justin Fields will end up in division with the Vikings, and vice versa. If Kirk ends up staying with the Vikings, I think that Justin Fields ends up with the Falcons. But
it's interesting.
I honestly think that Kirk Cousins is going to the Falcons, man. I think so. Part of it is there is a lot of smoke, and a lot of that is probably some use of leverage. Like, hey, Vikings, I'm looking at a house in Atlanta. Okay, sure you are. Okay, I'm definitely going to Atlanta. It's a done deal. Blah blah blah. But the Falcons have kind of told you, as Cass pretty much mentioned it, the Falcons have told you what they feel, number one, about Justin Fields personally, in my opinion. Number two, they kind of have told you over the past few years how they feel, where they feel their team is. So let's go back in the timeline. So before Raheem Morris is rehired, the talks are that they're going after Bill Belichick. I know some people think that was 100% true. They 100% wanted Bill Belichick,
it was definitely
and ended up with Raheem Morris. So that clue number one: if you're going for Bill Belichick, you're not thinking rebuild. You're thinking that you have the ability, your team is good enough to at least compete in some way, shape, or fashion. If people don't want to say, championship contender, whatever, we don't know. It's too early for all of that. But that's number one. Number two, something that I would talked about the entirety of last season was this season should have been all about Desmond Ridder. The fact that the moment that they decided, hey, we're gonna start Taylor Heineke, that was a moment that once again the Falcons, in my opinion, are, I don't know if this is an Arthur Blank thing, if this is a Terry thing, but I do think Terry has a lot to, this is a key point as well. That was a moment that I was like, I don't know if this team knows what direction they really want to go. Do they think they're a better team than they are, or are they a better team than they really are? Whatever that may be. Terry is also now at a point where he's on his second coach, so he's essentially a lame duck GM. He can't afford to really work. Regardless of what you may think about, reportedly the quarterbacks are the top four is pretty much set in stone. JJ McCarthy, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, and Caleb Williams. So most drafts don't have, let alone one great quarterback or one good quarterback, let alone two. So now when we're starting to talk about QB4, QB5, QB6, maybe, depending on trades up and stuff like that, does Terry really want to tie his future to that? So that's why I really see Kirk Cousins going there, because they're going to be the team that's willing. Like I said, they've been telling us, we think we're here. We think we're at a point where we can contend. And then, we can also, if we trade down, maybe we can build up some capital to next year, maybe have 2 picks to trade up, 2 first-round picks to trade up, or maybe the year following, however that goes. So that's why I'm feeling like, as of today, I would say. But like I said, if he stays with the Vikings, I do think that it'll end up being Justin Fields.
And I get that 100%. And I think I don't think we're a Kirk Cousins away from contending. And I say that like pretty confidently. And it's a lot of, you go on Twitter, like a lot of other Falcons fans or some, it's very divisive right now, actually. But the general sense is, okay, well, Kirk comes on, we're ready to win now. Like, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. You win 7 games last year with subpar quarterback play. If you would have had a decent quarterback in there, somebody even like we talked about those vets, Jacoby Brissett, even a Gardner Minshew, something like that could have got us to a division win probably and a playoff berth. I don't think you have to go out and spend 40. I don't know exactly what all he's asking for. We'll see how that ends up. But you're talking about $45 million plus for Kirk Cousins for 2 or 3 years. I don't think it's worth it.
One thing I do want to mention about that is the Falcons did have, as well as the Colts, because they were a team that won a lot of games with a backup quarterback. Those were 2 of the easiest schedules in the league. So that is, and also you're going to have it. Keep in mind. I don't know how that looks next year. Obviously, today we might say it one way, and then when the season comes after stuff has been traded and drafted and stuff like that, we don't know how that looks. But
yeah. But I just think because you're going to sign Kirk to that type of contract to still be players in free agency this year. You're going to backload it. You're going to have to restructure some other contracts on the team. It's a lot that you have to do. It's a lot that you have to do, and it's a risk because what if it's a possibility? All right, we're not guaranteed the division if Kirk comes to Atlanta. What if you miss the playoffs again? What if you don't win the division? And then you're stuck paying a quarterback that's about to turn 37, who obviously didn't come and take you over the top, and you look at coaching, you look at all of that. I just think it's a lot of risk to that, compared to going the younger route where you're kind of looking at more growth and Justin Fields or whatever. But my option A is still to, try to trade up. If that's not possible, then Justin. But
the thing you mentioned is risk and all that. But didn't the Falcons just do that? Didn't the Falcons just get a young quarterback, a QB2 in this draft, a young quarterback, and try to go for growth? And now they're in this position.
I wouldn't compare that though, because he was QB2, but that's because of the draft. I mean, he was third. He was a third round pick, man, and it was a draft with Kenny Pickett that went first. Like this, that draft compared to this one is totally different.
That's
totally
not, but
different.
I mean, you say that, but hey, that's a guy that also got his team to the college football playoffs. That's something to keep in mind. I mean, it's easy to say. I always like, because like I was saying in our little group chat, you know, it's something that I just went through as a Colts fan. Like we just went through the same thing, and at a point in time when we got Phillip Rivers, everybody was like, let's draft Jordan Love. Let's draft Jordan Love. And, you know, at this, it's 5 years later now. So Jordan Love, you know, looks like a completely different person. But who's to say that if we draft Jordan Love, he would have been that
same development. But, you know, but look at where y'all ended up, though. You know what I mean? Like, y'all went through what y'all went through, but y'all still ended up with a new quarterback. I mean, a new coach and a new, like a draft. So but do you stick this out and hope that you have a season like you did with Matt there, and you just like fall off the rails so you can get a top pick? Like,
only thing I would say for y'all that works in your favor is y'all do have a rookie head coach. So that to me would be like, you know, giving a little leash on
unless
what's
the
going
wheels
on.
fall off,
so
like
you
have a
would
little
think so, but that's not.
opinion.
Well, yeah, that Carolina shit was different.
Yeah, I don't know what they got going on with them.
But I mean, it's a risk to everything, and I mean,
it is.
At the end of the day, you gotta do it. And I mean, the thing about the Colts and the reason that Frank Reich ended up, you know, and it ended up in the situation that it did is because they hitched their wagon to the wrong quarterback. And I mean, that could happen regardless of if it's a rookie or if it's a vet. It just so happened that not only was,
I mean, we see it all the time.
We got solid quarterback play, but it was more about what happened in the locker room and the lack of leadership there as a whole that made that situation what it was. So, you know, I don't think that if we had the season that Carson Wentz, or if we had Matt Ryan, let's say instead of Carson Wentz, and we had the same exact season where it just went downhill like that, I'm not so sure that Frank Reich would have been gone, because I do think Matt Ryan's leadership at that point, it wouldn't have gotten to a toxic point like it got, which led to needing some head coaching changes. But it's all about that right position. And I think Kirk Cousins is a good leader. So, I mean, he's a good dude. Clearly they love him in the Vikings locker room. But, you know, we'll see. You know. But I've already told y'all how I feel about Justin Fields. Where are y'all thinking that he lands?
Yeah. Because I think
2 options basically.
Yeah. And because I got Kirk staying in Minnesota, I'm gonna have Justin most likely coming to Atlanta. I think a trade with the Bears does end up happening. If not there, I really don't know. The reports are Pittsburgh don't want anything to do with I don't know what they're doing at quarterback. But you're not seeing too much, and we see that. We see reports about Justin Fields' market not being what the Bears thought it would be, which I don't really know what they thought it would be. But we see like is not many teams are, you know, clamoring for his services, and it's, you know, it is what it is. And so now they're in a point now where it's looking like they have to wait to see what all shakes, and see if you can get a team or a couple of teams desperate enough that miss out on, you know, a couple of their top options or a couple of trade up opportunities to kind of be like, all right, let's try to get Justin Fields and kind of get it a bit. I mean, that's their best bet now, but I don't see it. I don't see a clear path. So I'm gonna go Atlanta for now.
I mean, I don't see a path either. I just don't. I don't think, you know, you usually don't see nothing like that trading within the division. So I'm not sure about that. I mean,
yeah,
I wouldn't mind him going to Denver. Send his ass to Denver. They need a quarterback. Goddamn.
The only thing about Denver is that they were another team. The Falcons and Denver are both teams that passed on Justin Fields as a prospect. So like, it's hard for me. Like, right. I understand out of necessity if he goes to the Falcons just because he's a hometown kid and stuff like that. But it would be hard for me to see him going to those two teams specifically, just because they already passed on him. They're already, to turn back around and be like, yeah, you're the quarterback for us is a little. I would have a lot of questions.
They would definitely be a lot of
questions
questions
for Denver, so I don't put shit past them. Nigga.
Oh, that's true. But like, I don't know. But like, where else does he go? Like, honestly, like, where else does he go? He's probably not going to the Raiders. I don't know. Denver probably doesn't even want to spend the draft capital to get him.
Maybe.
So it's
they don't have no picks really. So
they don't have no picks. So
I mean,
like,
but we were talking about this last week about them having to, get off some of these players. They might try to do that. They already showing that they willing to take a $85 million cap hit, so they ain't really got no damn wiggle room.
Jerry Jeudy to the Bears.
That's what's interesting about like everybody saying Denver as a trade up opportunity. I don't see Denver trading up in this draft at all. I know we're going to get to it. People keep like if anything they need to trade down.
They don't have the draft capital to trade.
And I think I said this a couple times. Like I feel like they should legit be the team. Like that's a lot to trade down from their spot. Of course, depending on how the draft shakes out, but like they need to build up some because they need to fill out their roster and with the 85, with however much it's gonna be this year and the cap hit. I mean dead cap, so it's like But yeah, I don't see. And so you're not trading up. You're probably not getting JJ. You're probably not getting if you're Denver. You're probably not getting none of those guys. So
the other thing to keep in mind is we say that every year that there's going to be 4 quarterbacks. It's going to be XYZ taken in the top 10. It was the conversation of all last year that it was going to be 4 back-to-back quarterbacks with Bryce, CJ, and then Will Levis, and all of a sudden Will Levis drops to the second round.
Yeah.
Bet on there's probably not going to be 4 quarterbacks taken in the first 10 picks. It probably might not be 4 quarterbacks taken in the first round. That's your odds are probably that's what's going to happen unless like the Giants really want a quarterback and there's one that drops. But if the only way that I see 4 quarterbacks going is if that scenario that I had mentioned in our mock draft last week with Jaden dropping past 3 and going to the Giants. That's really the only way that I possibly see 4 quarterbacks going in the first round. But I mean, in the first 10 picks. But we'll see.
We'll see.
It's fluid. It's fluid. But in terms of the next quarterback, the reason he's on my mind is because of the team that we just mentioned. Where do you guys think Jimmy G is going to go?
Home?
Maybe. He's definitely going to be home for the first few weeks.
I don't see any team I don't know. I don't like Jimmy G. He's not
getting picked up by nobody.
I don't like. I really don't. Even if you bring him in as a vet to I don't know. Maybe the Steelers if they want a little bit of competition in their locker room. That's the only place I can really see. Maybe, but other than that, I don't see anybody taking that. Like, why? You're gonna be even if you play him, he's gonna be suspended for the first 2 games. It's just not. It's not looking good for Jimmy G at this moment, man. Did you have a place in mind for him? I really don't see anybody.
I think he's going to Denver. I think I could see him going to Denver, running that Sean Payton offense for him. I mean, he'll run it to a T just like he wants. He'll be on time. He's everything that Russell is not, and everything Russell is what Jimmy G is not. In terms of deep ball accuracy and stuff like that. So, I do think that could be, especially if they go get somebody like if they're so inclined to get JJ McCarthy and he drops to them, or Jaden Daniels and he drops to them, or they get a Bo Nix or something like that. I could definitely see them going with a Jimmy G, getting a Bo Nix, and then when they start to have more picks in the next years or so, maybe trying to take that swing for a quarterback.
I mean, that might be a solid plan. I could see. I mean, I don't know. Jimmy G is in a tough spot, but Chris said nobody. So shit. I mean, we go with that.
Y'all hating on that nigga Jimmy G.
I mean, I'm just saying. I feel you. Like, I see what Shad's saying about Denver. I mean, Denver needs somebody.
Yeah,
they gonna get a quarterback.
They probably will.
They don't have a lot of money, so it's not gonna be a Kirk Cousins. They don't have draft picks, so it's probably not gonna be a Justin Fields. So
facts. See, but other than that, I mean, like, I don't know. It's just not looking good for Jimmy G. And then I mean he stay getting injured too. So
That is true.
Hey, maybe the first 2 games off, he'll get his body right or something. Pause.
I don't know about that.
That was weird. Hey, what about what y'all think about Russ? Where he going? Where he landed?
That's the thing too. So like the big talk this week with him, of course, he's one of the first that can legally go out and talk to other teams. And of course the Broncos will be owing him $39 million regardless of where he signs for this upcoming year. So everybody's saying that as an opportunity for him to be like a prove it guy, go on a minimum contract and get a chance to start. But at the same time, you're looking at the teams that it's possible for. Other than, I mean, I don't think he's going to the Steelers. He's not going to the Raiders. Maybe one of those first 2 teams. Maybe one of not the Bears, but maybe the Washington Commanders. As just to see if he would be like a bridge guy. I mean, I don't know. I really have no idea. I'm really guessing. But I don't really see too many teams that will like his services. So I'm thinking maybe Washington, maybe New England, to bring him in if they're not ready, if they're not super sure that they want to throw their guy in there this first year, or at least the first half of the first year or whatever, to see if he can be that cheap like vet bridge option. But that's all I can see it for him at this moment.
Out of those teams, I probably say New England. New coach, new regime. Like you said, Kaz, maybe a more so a bridge guy, but I've been lately on the cups of just if you're gonna draft a quarterback early first round, go ahead, put him out there. I mean, so it works for some, don't work for others, but I mean, you got to see what you got. If you gonna draft a quarterback that high, let's just say they draft them at the pick they getting, you can't wait. You got to see what you got. So I don't know, but if I had to choose, I would say New England probably be his best bet.
Yeah, I'm kind of mixed on that, and I get like why you want to get your guy out there and see what you got, but at the same time, I mean, we talked about it too a few weeks ago. How first off, that we're writing off these quarterbacks way too fast, but we're also not giving them a chance to develop. Like this year is kind of different because we are getting these older quarterbacks coming in, because of the COVID years and they have more time in college. But there are a couple that are just like JJ just turned 21, or Drake May is 21. I think he'll be 22 like later this year, I think. But it's like they're still young guys, and I think it can serve as an opportunity to really slowly build the right way and not just throw them out there in the fire like they did, like the Washington did with a Sam Howell, or like whoever else got thrown out there. I can't think of off the top of my head, but like Washington did with Sam Howell, he kind of threw him out there to the wolves, and he did. Sam Howell showed some good things, but he also threw a hell of a lot of picks, and he was under.
I think that. I mean, I want to give Sam a little bit more benefit of the doubt because he was going through a whole lot of. I mean, the transition for new ownership, head coach is clearly going to get fired at the end of the season, pretty much no matter how that season went. The half of the, they brought in an OC and Eric Bieniemy that clearly the rest of the NFL does not like. And,
right.
So much he went to college. It was just a makeshift staff and everything. So, not to say Sam Darnold would have been some dog or something like that, but at the end of the day, he didn't necessarily get the hand of the best situation either.
Yeah.
But I think Russ is going to the Raiders, man. I think the Russ is going to the Raiders. I mean, it just seemed like Vegas redemption, for him, and give him an opportunity. Who's to say Sierra won't fuck around and have a residency in Vegas or some shit, like Usher on some silly shit.
I mean, I can see that too. I mean, if you're thinking like,
it's like opportunity. It's an opportunity, but aside from that, I don't know if I like Aiden, but I don't know how. I don't know what he's gonna end up being. Yeah. And bringing in Russ at least to be a veteran and compete with him would be something, especially if your goal is to keep Devontae Adams like they've been saying. obviously they're going to keep Max Crosby. He's not, of old age or anything like that. But, and I also think that Antonio Pierce is the one to kind of keep him in line. Like he'll be the one to back him in his corner, but he's also going to be the one that ain't going to take all the bullshit that Russ, supposedly reportedly came out with that first year, want to have his own office and have a different entrance and all this other bullshit. So, I definitely think, and that seems to be a close knit enough locker room, similar to Seattle, where they can bring him in and he can kind of fit in. One of the things, I don't know if y'all saw this. Did y'all see? So the athletic writer Nate Tice is supposedly Russ's roommate in college.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. It was on the Dan Le Batard show, I believe, and they were talking about a story that they asked him about Russ, and basically Russ, it was like trying to describe Russ's personality. It was basically saying like Russ's personality is the guy that wants everybody to like him and is trying like extra hard for everybody to like him, but he doesn't realize like everybody's like cringing at him trying hard for everybody to like him, basically.
Yeah.
And he said one time Russ asked him to watch something, and he's like, yeah, I'll watch it with you. And he turns it on, and it's like a feature that ESPN did or Game Day did on Russ, and he's like, yeah, so like, what did you think about it? So it's just Russ. I saw that shit and I was like, this nigga is funny, bro. Like, cause that's exactly how I picture this nigga. But
you can tell Russ is that. Yeah, now you can tell Russ. I mean, maybe this whole experience humbled him to where he's not even looking. So
Russ asked his roommate to watch a documentary on him or a segment.
It's like
on
a
him.
Feature, yeah, like a segment on him.
But hell no.
Yeah, he different.
That shit is so funny, bro. I was like, bro, what is up with this? They said it was like an away game, like they're in the hotel room, so they're roommates and shit like that. He's like, yo, can you watch this with me, bro? Like, imagine this nigga. It's a segment on this. I'll be like, bro, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Bro, that shit was so funny. I think it was Pablo Torres I think. I could be wrong, but I know it was on the Le Batard show.
Yeah. I think maybe this whole process humbled, Russ in a way, where he's not even really looking to. Maybe I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt.
I saw that interview with Brandon Marshall, and it just, I don't know, man.
I mean, at this point, I feel like teams are gonna tell them straight up, like, "Hey, man, you not worth what you asking for us. Like, you can't come in here and dictate any kind of term. We didn't see you in Denver. Like, you can't do that. And the quicker if he wants a job, he's gonna get with the program. If not, he's not getting a job. That's how I look at it.
And then on Russ' side, on the opposite end of that, he's probably going to be a Hall of Famer, right, one day. No,
that I don't know about that.
He had some great years in Seattle.
Yeah, he sold him a Super Bowl. That should get like 3-4 strikes on your shit.
That's fair.
Like maybe one great year.
It was a good run. It was a good run of like 5 years. Yeah,
he was solid.
It was solid.
He was solid. I've never been the biggest. I've always been,
That's true.
Russ is average, and it's just. I think a Hall of Fame great quarterback in his prime. You switching teams, you're not just gonna flame out like that. Like I can't.
Yeah, I think the Denver shit fucked him up. But I think that Denver, like the whole Denver experience, fucked him up.
Sour taste.
Kind of like
that's possible too.
Yeah, I really think that had he went to Denver and even if it didn't work out, but they made the playoff type shit, then maybe. But that Denver shit, that really fucked him up. I think that's one of the main reasons why he's still trying to play, because like you got to fix that.
So I got a question for you. Do you think that Dak Prescott is building on a Hall of Fame career?
No.
Is he building on one? Sure. Will he get there?
Everybody is.
But if, say for instance, Dak come out next year and they win a Super Bowl or some shit like that. You start looking at that shit a little closer now. You're like, okay, 3 straight 12-win seasons plus whatever they win this year.
Yeah, 3
and they get a Super Bowl.
12-win seasons and 3 bum-ass performances. I don't know about that. I can't get down with that. But I mean, hey, we'll see.
He's building on one. I don't think he'll get there.
Him winning a Super Bowl on top of him being the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys is going to increase the hype of what's not there.
You know that star.
Yeah, but I'm just because he done had some great regular seasons. We can all agree to that. But I mean, flame down the playoffs every time that ain't a good look.
The only reason I ask is because that's who I think about with Russ is that just solid.
I can see that. I can see that.
Not hating on them. Not saying they're not good quarterbacks, but that's about it. They're good. There's. It is what it is. All right, for our last two QBs, man, what you guys got for Ryan Tannehill and Mac Jones?
McCorkle.
Yeah,
Oracle Jones.
For Ryan, I don't know if Jimmy G does end up going to the Broncos, like you said. I could see Ryan going to the Steelers, like it was first reported, weeks ago. I don't think that Arthur Smith smoke is fake at all. I think he really does like Ryan Tannehill. I think, and especially at this point in time, Arthur Smith wants to wants to get his reputation back up, really, so bringing in a guy that you're familiar with just makes a lot of sense for him. As far as Mac Jones, I don't think he stays on the Patriots for sure. I think they definitely get rid of him. But as far as where he goes, man, he's going to be a backup somewhere. I think if you're maybe a team like, I don't know, a team like the Jets, maybe, you just want to bring him in and see, just have him as a backup, see if you got anything there, because you're getting off of Zach Wilson. You already gave him permission. I don't know where the fuck he's going, if he goes, But I think Mac Jones will be a solid replacement for a backup there behind Aaron Rodgers. And that's probably where Mac Jones spends the rest of his career, just like as a backup, which is what it is. But you had you made a Pro Bowl, so congratulations. But you got fucked over, and here we are. You got anywhere, Chris?
For Tannehill, I feel like he's going to be more so of Jacoby Brissett. Like, he's going to be a backup somewhere and filling in. Maybe even waiting till something might happen to an actual starter. What you say?
Well, emphasizing backup. He's going to be a backup.
He is going to be a backup. I don't see him starting anywhere. You can say the Steelers, sure, whatever, but right. I just don't think he's gonna start anywhere. I think he's not I'm not saying like a sorry ass backup.
He's over the hill the way you said. He's over. He's just the way you said.
But Jacoby Brissett is a valuable backup in my opinion. I don't think he's sorry. He's not going to be a franchise quarterback.
Ryan Tannehill is 35, 36. It is what it is at this point for him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I feel like Jacoby Brissett, like every team he done played for, when he actually played, he actually gave him positive reinforcement, however you want to call it. But he's it's not like he went somewhere and it's like he came in and he was just like, oh my God, every time. That's what I think of at this point with Tannehill. Like, you're not about to bring him in and be your starter for real. Let's be honest, you're not about to do that.
Yeah, sure.
So that's what I'm saying. But I think it won't be a quick decision. That's really what I was alluding to. It'd be some type of training summer possible injury type of decision. That's what
especially at the season we saw. Like, I think backups are going to get a more premium thought this upcoming season because of what happened. Like last season was like ridiculous with all the starting quarterbacks going down, and you just want to be more prepared for that shit. I think so. He'll land somewhere.
And as far as Mac Jones, I'm gonna just stick with what I said last week. I think he's gonna stay with the Patriots one more year, and they're gonna try to get him a little more help and see what he can really do.
So
I'm just stick with that.
The fact, number one, I do think it's funny that we're pigeonholing Mac Jones to a backup role as if he's not better than Russ.
I said he was gonna stay,
but I'm gonna just hold that down. I'm gonna hold that down.
I said he was gonna stay,
but I actually had Mac Jones going to the Jets. I think that he should get heavy consideration with the Falcons, whether right or wrong. I think
that ain't happening.
He should definitely get consideration with the Falcons. But I do think he ends up with the Jets and gets an opportunity to start next year when Aaron Rodgers is out of there, or the year after, however he decides, with him.
Yeah.
And easy enough with the Tannehill. I think he's going to the Steelers. I think that's going to be one of the early signings, actually. And I think that they're going to bring in competition for and Ryan Tannehill already has experience doing a little 3 quarterback with Malik Willis and Will Levis.
Yeah,
so
true.
I think he easily shows that he's a good vet. He's got some good weapons, similar to what I mean, it's almost the exact same setup for him that he had in Tennessee. Good defense, some good weapons. He had A.J. Brown, Corey Davis, Jonnu Smith. Now he's got Pat Freiermuth, Deontay Johnson, and George Pickens with a good running game. Obviously, nobody's Derrick Henry, but you do have Najee and Jalen Warren. So I think Ryan Tannehill goes there and wins the job, and they figure out what they're going to do with the young quarterback in the next couple of years. But we're going to see. We're going to see QB carousel, man. I'm thinking I'm hitting 100%, but we're going to see.
We'll see. That Jimmy G Broncos one, I didn't think about that one, so that was a good one. I'll give you that one.
We're going to see. We're going to see. But before we get into our NFC West preview, got one more landing spot. Obviously we know that, or I got 2 more. 2 guys that got franchise tagged that, the reports are they might get traded. L'Jarius Sneed and Brian Burns. Do you think that Sneed is going to get traded? We know that. Yeah. Do you think that Brian gets traded, and where do you have landing spots for both of them?
I don't think Brian's getting traded at all. They some assholes. I could tell you that right now. them motherfuckers like, yeah, you ain't going nowhere. We see nah, they not letting him go. That shit over with.
I don't know. I think that's good business, honestly.
I disagree with that. I think I
can see how them motherfuckers moving, boy.
I think that's
here to prove a point.
That's the same thing that they did with Lamar.
Yeah, I think Brian ends up getting traded.
I look at it as a situation like Le'Veon Bell, I should say. That's what I'm looking at.
I don't think he's gonna hold out. I think because they gave him the opportunity to talk with other teams, they're gonna be able to set the contract for him. Or like we saw Lamar, he's just gonna, they're gonna continue to talk and then land on something. I feel like there might be a possibility that he's trying to get top, most money at the defensive end, and they're like, all right, bro, like we were just 2 wins, my guy. Like,
yeah,
relax.
But that defense was straight though. It wasn't.
It was, but he still only had like 8 sacks last year. No disrespect, but I mean, he's a dog.
He is a dog. Though.
Hey, ain't gonna lie. That first game when he came back, game 1.
Yeah.
Cash no.
I know. That motherfucker. I'm telling you, the week leading up, we were like, "Is he playing? Is he playing?" That's all like Falcons on Twitter. Like, I hope he don't play. I hope he don't play. And that came out there and wrecking shit. But yeah, I think he does end up getting traded. The big talk is like, of course, they turned down was it last year or the year before? Where they turned down 2 picks from the Rams that they offered to trade for him. So it's like, okay, honestly, I don't know what he goes for now, but I think you got it. I think that relationship is getting sour on the outside looking in. I think it's like, and I don't think it's like sustainable. Who could use him? Shit, maybe the Rams again. I could see that still happening. Honestly, I think they really like him. If they weren't in our division, I would say us, because Raheem clearly likes him to sign off on trading 2 picks for him. But that shit is not happening for us. But honestly, that's probably where I see it still happening. Just recircling back to that, if it does happen. What do you think, Shy? You think he gets traded at all?
I honestly don't think he gets traded. The team that I do think it would be the Rams if he did, because I do think that would be the only team that would really willing to be giving up 2 first-round picks, as well as has the money to sign him.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's really anything wrong with the relationship. I honestly feel like, I mean, it's number one, the new GM is a former player for the Panthers. So he's supposed to be a well-liked guy in the building. So, obviously there's been reports about the ownership and stuff like that, but I think it's just more so like them just trying to figure out the right spot. I think, like I said, Brian Burns is like, I know what I can do.
Yeah.
I should be paid XYZ. And they're like, yeah, we know what you could do, you too, but you should be paid like maybe top 5, not top 1. So, but
that's fair.
And then we'll kind of see that. But for Sneed, where do you guys think that he ends up going?
I mean, shit. So the report came out today that 7 teams are interested in him. Pretty much
Driving
all
that
3 of
price
our
up.
teams, which is very interesting. Hard to say where he'll go. It depends on what kind of compensation that you're willing to give up. I think he should go to a team like the Bills, which would be very interesting. I would like to see that. That'll probably be my choice for him. I don't know if the Bills end up can pull that off or anything, but they probably can't. But I would like to see it, if it's not one of our teams. So,
What say you, Chris?
I don't know if this is one of the teams on the report, but I think he would fit very well if he went to the Ravens, though, for real, for real. I think that'll be a good fit for him in general, a good fit for their defense. But I mean, if it ain't one of our teams, I don't really give a fuck about that trash.
Wow.
If you had to choose a team besides the Colts, Shy, who you got?
I do think it's going to come down to the Colts and the Lions. Just in general. And then the Rams would be once again another team because I do think that they could use. Those are the 3. Obviously, I've said from the start of this offseason, the Colts are going to make a splash. I truly believe it, because all these teams that have rookie quarterbacks, I would look at them to make some type of splash. So Texans, Indy, the Panthers, depending on what happens with Brian Burns, could definitely make a splash if they get 2 first-round picks now. So I do all of those teams, the Titans, we might see them get a Romo Dunze or Malik Neighbors, trade up for one of those guys. All of those teams, I believe, if they truly believe in their quarterback, they're all going to make a splash. So those are teams that I would look to, or the Colts, 100%, like I said. The Lions, obviously, they're a team that needs a corner. They've got some money, which could go away pretty fast if they end up, re-signing him on Ross St. Brown. Or if they, give Jared Goff a new contract, which both maybe likely Penei Sewell, he's coming up too. So all that money might go, and they might not be wanting to sign a corner. But those would be the 2 main teams, with the Rams slightly on the other side of it.
That's fair, man. I mean, we're coming up close because it's like, and Schefter said it yesterday. I think Adam Schefter saying that by the time you get to Wednesday, like, this shit gonna be pretty much wrapped up.
Free agency is gonna look a lot differently. Like, it's gonna be a lot of guys. It's gonna be a lot of guys.
Yeah,
obviously, there's gonna be the receiver class dried up real quick, and now we're looking at Hollywood or Calvin really being the number 1 receiver in the free agency class, and then running backs is going to be deep. So who knows how the market turns out for them and where those guys are.
That shit gonna be crazy.
Because we got Saquon, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, Tony Pollard, Zach Moss is a good running back.
DeAndre
Swift. Like, it's going to be a lot. So probably I can see a lot of those guys. Yeah, Austin Eckler. I would love to see Derrick Henry or Saquon go to the Ravens, like, do the right thing. But they're going to have to take some pay cuts. Or Josh Jacobs, honestly. Josh Jacobs, oof. He would go crazy in that Ravens uniform, boy.
Yeah, he would. Oh, J.K. Dobbins is a free agent, too, if he bounces back from his injury. But, yeah, the safety market.
The safety, and they're really just DBs in general. Veteran DBs like Xavier Howard, obviously Snead, obviously Xavier McKinney, Diggs, Jamal Adams,
Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer.
Those are some kind of older guys.
Gardner Johnson.
Yeah, Gardner Johnson. Hey Chris, they talking about he gonna come back to the squad. What's up, man?
We needs that. We need some safety play. Oh, Bayer is on the market now.
Oh, yeah, he is.
It's a lot of guys on the market, and which could lead to, some guys waiting around for a long time. We could see, you spoke about, Ryan Tannehill being a training camp, signing. I could see that for a Micah Hyde, or I could see that for a Jordan Poyer, where they're looking and they're like, let's just chill. We can take our visits. We go to a team. Some teams like to play the compensatory game, so they don't like to play in the first wave of free agency and stuff like that. So, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I'm about to say this is an interesting free agency because I feel like it's way more than it has been in some time as far as just the amount of big name people we know of. Big name people that was like, hey, they can do some damage on the right team type shit.
Oh, I mean, a lot of teams probably have tried to go all in. You know, Buffalo obviously tried to go all in. People are coming at them for the Von Miller stuff and that contract, and which supposedly we didn't even mention Trey White again in terms of the veteran, DB market, but all of these guys starting to get cut. So you're gonna see a lot of teams that did the all in thing. Hey, Bengals may make some cuts. We obviously spoke about the Chargers. The Chiefs kind of did their cuts a couple years ago with Tariq Hill and getting rid of Frank Clark and moving off some of these guys to Tyrann Mathieu. And instead of getting Tyrann Mathieu, you go get Justin Reed and stuff like that. So, some of these teams had foresight. Other teams, now the bill is due. The Saints are the only team that seems to just not want to deal with
they're going to keep kicking the can down the road.
But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the NFC West, man. Last week we did the AFC West and kind of discussed, the Super Bowl, obviously Super Bowl winner and the Kansas City Chiefs and some of those teams we've talked about. I feel like everybody's kind of talked about Russ a lot over the past few weeks and with the cut and everything, the interview. But on the other side of the Super Bowl, we have our Super Bowl loser as well as some other good teams.
Like you say loser, like loser.
Loser. Hey, that shit funny. Hey, but we can start with the San Francisco 49ers, especially because we just heard some they're not, they're interesting, but they're true comments from Deebo Samuel in terms of, everybody's always talking about next year, and it's hard to get to a Super Bowl, let alone lose 2 Super Bowls. But Niners went 12-5 this past season. They obviously had a great season, ended up in the Super Bowl, ended up going into overtime with the Kansas City Chiefs. They're negative. They're $3 million over the cap right now. And some of their key free agents, Sam Darnold, Randy Gregory, Chase Young, of course, Tashawn Gibson at one of their starting safeties, and Javon Kinlaw, their former first-round pick. In terms of, obviously, with a team like that, a team that ends up going to the Super Bowl, it's hard to say, especially with a quarterback on a rookie contract, it's hard to be like, they need more, like they need X, Y, Z. What do you think that they need to do to kind of improve moving forward?
Okay. So I think for this team, I think their focus will be on the trenches, both sides of the ball. Of course, you're probably not going to sign Chase Young back, more than likely. But I mean, they don't have any other key free agents outside of at their skill positions. So I mean, this is the best time to, especially while you're still rolling with Brock Purdy, to focus on the trenches, get that focus back on the trenches, because clearly that's what happened. Like clearly that's what plagued you in all of those big games last year, but especially Super Bowl. But all of the big games that they played, you could see that it was a difference in size and strength, down there. So I think their focus should be on that on both sides of the ball, and maybe another receiver.
And then one thing to sort of cut you off that we did mention is the possibility of the Brandon Ayuk contract extension as well. So
so definitely the trenches, and then receiver help.
So who do you think
to focus?
Who do you think they could go with one of their first round pick?
Yeah, so it's tough to see who would be available down at 31. At 31, it's just that's really a crapshoot, depending on how it goes. But this is a draft that is pretty strong in those areas that they need, and pretty deep. So honestly, like once you get down to 31 and you're looking around, you're like, okay, I can get a receiver such as Adonai Mitchell, or you can, get one of the, I don't know, honestly, maybe Troy Fontenot from Washington. The tackle there is still available. Maybe you get something like that, or maybe I don't know. I would say focus on definitely the trenches though, or receiver. So I think you'll have a lot of options available to you. So I would say those two. That'll be my main two that I try to focus on. Maybe Troy from Washington if he's there, and then a Dunai Mitchell if you want to go receiver, just to boost up that a little bit. But anybody in particular for you, Chris, for the 49ers?
Definitely the trenches for them. I don't see them, signing any of these players that we were just talking about back. The Brandon Ayuk situation is probably the main thing that they probably will focus on. They feel, I'll say this: whoever they draft at that position is going to tell us what they think about wherever they got going on. Like, they draft a receiver, I think then Brandon Ayuk, they're not going to stand him or wherever the case may be, or do something else with him. But I if I were them, I would go with the trenches. I mean, that has been one of their biggest strengths of the team, and you went out to get Chase Young just for a 1-year rental because that's something you felt like you needed to get over the hump, and that's what they that's what they really believe in. So I think there's plenty of edge rushers, good edge rushers in this draft, so they can get something at 31 without having to actually reach.
I could see them bringing back Gibson just because of the market for the safeties now. I could also see Chase Young possibly coming back. So I do think there could be two interesting situations with their edge rush. I could see Chase Young coming back on a 1-year, kind of a smaller compensation, 1-year deal, prove it deal, and coming back to the 49ers and just getting back right. Obviously, he came off an injury this past season and got traded middle of the season as well. But another name that I could also see making his way over to San Francisco is Joey Bosa. Obviously, we've talked about there's a possibility of Khalil Mack and him and Mike Williams. And, one destination I saw from Mike Williams that I kind of liked was with the Browns. Him out across from Amari Cooper. I think that would be nice. But, Joey Bosa coming over, I could see a possibility of him being like, I don't have to get paid, top of the line to come play with my brother for a year or two. But I kind of agree with you guys in terms of building up the trenches, looking to get. I could see somebody like J.C. Latham falling down there as well. But really, I would target a Chop Robinson, or depending on how the DBs fall, maybe getting a DB there, because they do have Shavarius Ward. Obviously, he just made All-Pro, but they do have him coming up as well in terms of an extension and stuff like that. He's getting a little bit up there in age. He's not old, but you never know how they get with DBs and stuff like that. So that's probably where I would target for them with the trenches, and then with DB being a close second.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting too, because of course, they had their new defense coordinator coming in. He was already there, but he got promoted. Yeah. So I mean, they're honestly in a good spot. To be honest, I get that this lost Super Bowl and shit, but they're not in a bad spot. It's not a lot of huge decisions they have to make unless they want to make them going into it. And I think a lot of it is just to be about building that culture up.
Another thing, you quickly forget they didn't have Hufanga for the better part of last year of the end of the season. So,
yeah, that's definitely true. But look into the team that landed in second. A year ago, this is why it's hard to say. When people are like, "Oh, they're 5 years away," or they're a long ways away. This was what was said about the Los Angeles Rams all last year. Everybody was writing them off to kind of be a bottom feeder team. They were, I'm sure there were some people talking about maybe Cooper Kupp or Aaron Donald or even Matthew Stafford might be available at the trade deadline, at the beginning of the season and stuff like that. But 10-7, they make the playoffs. They obviously meet the Detroit Lions and put up a great game over there. They've got about $43 million in cap space, but they have a lot of key free agents, available. They got John Johnson, who came back over to them, played some good snaps for them. Jordan Fuller, who was their leading snap guy. Between Jordan Fuller and Ahkello Witherspoon, the two leading guys in their backfield on the defensive side. Kevin Dotson, a guard for them, as well as Brian Allen. And then I put him down as a key free agent. You guys might feel a little different, but Carson Wentz. Matt Stafford has missed, a couple games over the past couple seasons. And like you guys said earlier, the backup role has been key, especially after last season. I do think Carson Wentz could try to look to maybe he played well in spot time with them, but maybe he looks to try to go, compete to be a starter somewhere. But I do think that would be a good spot, especially trying to get him re-signed. But in terms of moves in the offseason, first round pick, who do you guys think that they could target?
I think
what is their draft position?
Their draft is like 19, 20, something like that.
Something like that. We'll learn on the fly here. But I think it's a team that is primed to take one of those cornerbacks if a good one that they like falls to them. I can see, them taking a swing on a Nate Wiggins. I can see them taking a
they're at 19, by the way.
They're at 19?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I can see a Nate Wiggins. If Quinyon falls, if Terrion's off the board first at cornerback, if Quinyon falls, I can see that happening there too. But again, like the Rams, of course, that's just adding to their already young, defense. Of course, they have some decisions to make at safety, who they're going to bring back, if they're going to bring back, or who they're going to go out and get. Of course, they had the money for that. But I think, I would say cornerback is where they might target, and it'll be one of those two. What you think?
I was definitely about to say cornerback too. For a draft pick, but I did like the suggestion by Shad with Snead going there. So if they do that, I kind of think they might try to swing at a receiver. Bolster up that offense while you can. I mean, you still got Matthew Stafford slinging that thing out there. And Sean McVay is the offensive guy, so I would not be shocked if they had the opportunity to get a good wide receiver at 19 that they would take that. But if I had to bet on something, I would think they would take a swing at the corner.
DB would also be the position that I would look at, but part of that, I do think they're going to double dip regardless. They're going to have to get a DB in the free agency if they don't bring Witherspoon back and get one in the draft, whether it's first or they're probably going to get one with their top, 3 picks.
Yeah.
If they do get Snead, because once again, I mentioned the Colts, but the Colts aren't typically the type of team that likes to get in a bidding war. Whereas, I mean, obviously we've seen what the Rams have done over the past few years. So, there's been some stuff that talked about maybe, Snead goes for a day 2 pick, maybe a package of a couple day 3 picks or something like that. If it gets to a point where it's starting to talk about second round picks, maybe future second and a third or something like that, I could see both the Lions and the Colts bowing out and the Rams taking that over. In that case, I would go with an edge rusher there for the Rams, looking at the guy from UCLA, Latu.
I think that'll be a good fit.
Maybe Jared Verse, Robinson from Missouri. Robinson from Missouri might be the guy for real, with them already having Byron Young over there. So, and then because they had a really good draft last year. Yeah, so
they did have a very good draft last year. So I mean,
getting Kobe Turner, Byron Young, and a young guy off rip, Puka. I mean, they still trying to see what they can do with Tutu, and they just re-signed Demarcus Robinson as well. So
Tutu,
yeah. But moving to the next team, Seattle, so the Rams and the Niners would be two teams that I would say are kind of like going up, or, for the Niners, it's pretty hard to go up. So maybe like at a point where they need to make some shit shake. Seattle, I feel like, is a little bit of a crossroads. They went 9-8. They had some really tough losses, could have really been in the playoffs. Obviously, Geno, he just got re-signed, but he had some injuries, and it's also a point of where you're like, is Geno our guy? Blah, blah, blah. And that age-old conversation, $44 million in cap space. Bobby Wagner's a free agent, Damian Lewis, Jordan Brooks. So they're two starting linebackers. Obviously, we know about their two safeties being gone. And then their prized, acquisition over the past year, Leonard Williams, is also a free agent. In terms of Seattle, where do you guys see them going in the first round? Obviously, we could probably say that they're going to sign Leonard Williams back. I mean, I don't see how they trade a pick for him and not re-sign him. So that cap space is probably going to be cut in half. So I don't know how much noise they make there, but where do you guys see them going in the draft?
This one's a little bit of kind of a tough one. I think this
and they're at 16, Chris.
Yeah. I think this could be a spot where maybe they look at interior offensive line. If JPJ, Jackson Powers-Johnson, falls to them at 16, I wouldn't necessarily say fall, but if they're there, if he's there at 16, I can see them taking a swing at booster in that line. Outside of that, maybe they get they could trade back. I mean, this is I think, they have a lot of ways, because like you said, they are at a crossroads, right? But how quick are they to being like really competitive? How quick is Coach McDonald, trying to implement, his guys, because they just wiped out their safeties. So you're probably not bringing Bobby Wagner back. So you're trying to implement so you're trying to implement your style, and you're gonna get the grace to do that, the time to do that. So I don't necessarily see them going like any of those positions this early. I don't think there's a player that at 16, as far as linebackers or safety, that's worth it. So I think Jackson Powers-Johnson. Of course, there's been talking in Seattle's, kind of Twitter, verse about like maybe they take a swing at quarterback at that position. Just a connection between Ryan Grubb and Penix for Geno's successor, because obviously, of course, you gave him the guarantee this year, but he's not going to be your future, So it's like, well, maybe you kind of prepare for that a little bit at this spot. Maybe you trade back. I don't know, but if he's there, Jackson Powers-Johnson, I like that fit there.
I think this is where they would, try to bolster up their defense a little bit. They are pretty young. They did get rid of their safeties, but I think this is where they would, add another edge rusher. Maybe like maybe like a Chop, or a Verse. But I think because of who their head coach is, and that's the thing about, what head coach is signing, because he's a defensive minded person. Like, I mean, he might not think, he might be like, oh, I'm good with Geno Smith. I don't need a quarterback that's going to go out there and try to just go crazy. You know what I'm saying? Because I want to play off my defense type of ordeal. They got good receivers, so I think they would go defense, and I think that's a position they would choose, is an edge rusher.
Okay.
So I also think we talked about their safeties. So I think Geno Stone from the Ravens ends up there. Obviously, he had a breakout season. I feel like that's like an easy, like, kind of
an easy
write
match.
that in pen there. But I could also see, so both of you guys kind of hit exactly what I was kind of thinking in terms of going for an edge rusher, depending on who's there. If it's a Dallas Turner, I think they go do it. If it's anybody else, I think they probably try to trade down. And then maybe they're a trade up candidate at the end of the first round to get a Michael Penix. That would be, I think that if I'm projecting Penix to be something, then Geno would be that. Geno is a very similar, type quarterback to him. Obviously, race aside, because it always seems like niggas want to compare it. When it's a white receiver, they always want to put it on a white receiver. It's a black quarterback. It's like, it's got to be a black quarterback. But race aside, that would probably be lefty. Geno Smith would be somebody that I would compare him to. So that, and then in the event, obviously they would have 2 first-round picks, so I do think they end up going edge regardless. And then maybe if they do a trade down, maybe get a second round pick or something like that, try to trade up and grab him. So that's where I would be going with Seattle. But it's interesting because they've got a lot of good things going, and then it seemed like a lot of, maybe that's why Pete was out when he was out, because he was like, hey, I don't want to leave out with the stench of Russell Wilson, stuff like that, now that things are seeming on the up and up. But with the injuries last year, it kind of maybe put threw a wrench in everything where it's like, all right, well, what the hell are we really trying to do? Because we just had the 5th pick. We could have tried to trade up for Anthony Richardson or CJ Stroud or one of them. We didn't do that. Bryce Young. What are we doing here? So, yeah. But for the final team, and I'm interested to think or to hear what you guys think in terms of where their, I guess, trajectory is comparatively to the Rams, Niners, and the Seattle Seahawks, is the Arizona Cardinals. 4-13. Obviously, Kyler Murray was out for most of the season. They went through the Joshua Dobbs project, and then obviously when Kyler came back, they looked pretty good. For the most part. Chris knows. 51 million in available cap space. Really the biggest free agent that they've got. They've got Antonio Hamilton, one of their corners, but Hollywood Brown. Really the major. Outside of that, I mean, their team is kind of. I feel like they kind of went through their rebuild and bring in young guys last year. So everybody's kind of picking them to get Marvin Harrison Jr. So in terms of trying to pigeonhole, a pick, I mean, I feel like we probably will all agree it's going to be that. If it's not Marvin Harrison Jr., where do you guys think that they go?
I mean, because, this is a team. They also had the 27. I think it's pick number 27 in the first round. So this is a team that has the 2 first-round picks. After they address that receiver early on, I think they turn to defense. And I think Gannon tries to get some of his guys, identify his guys and get some in to kind of build that defense up. The defense wasn't terrible last year, and I like Gannon as a coach overall. So I think that's where they turn. They could go in a number of directions. They could go corner. They could go edge. You know what I mean? They can. So the world is really their oyster because they're not really tied into, like, of course, like you said, like their roster is pretty much set, but they can increase. They can upgrade at pretty much every position, and it just be fine. They could go for a linebacker like Cooper, Edgerrin Cooper. They can go for one of the corners that I mentioned earlier, and Quinyon or Nate, something like that. So I think with that flexibility of having those 2 first-round picks, I think he'll feel more comfortable after they address that receiver position early on to go defense for sure.
So before you go, Chris, do you guys think that they're bringing Hollywood Brown back so if the pair would be Hollywood, Marvin, Michael Wilson, what do y'all think? Do y'all think they're bringing Hollywood back, or he's gone elsewhere?
I think he's probably gone. I think he is. But with how deep, I mean, that's the thing about. So you did ask about like trajectory of this franchise, right, and how they kind of measure up to the rest of these guys, the rest of these teams. It's not a clear path that I see to them being truly competitive. You got to bank on some guys developing. You got to bank on Michael Wilson turning into a legit number 2, threat to really help out Kyler. You still got to work on offensive line. It's still like a lot of upgrades that they have to do before they're even thinking about being competitive. And then when Kyler's making all that money, and I'm not truly sold on Kyler to begin with, as a quarterback that you can have as a true competitor, and especially in the playoffs, it's tough. It's tough for this team. I'm not to be sour on them or bad on them, but I really don't see a true path to being like, okay, and really that stems from their quarterback. I'm not gonna lie. I know they're all in on them, but I mean, you kind of stake your ground there, I guess. But I don't see them. I see them clearly as number 4 team in this division, and I don't see a path up anytime soon.
What say you, Chris?
It might sound crazy, but I think they're gonna to lean more on running and play action type of ordeal, and which is why I believe they would let Hollywood walk. They probably don't feel like they would need 3, 4 wide receivers in general, like top tier. Well, I ain't gonna say top tier, but you know what I'm saying. And I think they would, as far as their second draft pick of the first round, would be probably O lineman for me. I think they're gonna lean on running game. play action pass, and and Kyler's threat of being able to run himself, and then leaning on the defense. So, but like Cass said, it's too many positions that they definitely can. It's not like, oh, this position is set, they good.
You
No,
don't need this. Yeah, like
it's too many that
facts.
they need to upgrade. But I think from what I've seen and from what I'm looking at, I feel like they are going to lean that way.
I can
And
see
I
that.
mean, it kind of sounds crazy because the contract Kyler Murray signed, what he's getting paid to do, but that's just what it seems to me.
Maybe a Tyler Guyton's there, tackle there. They could upgrade that.
So
Maybe
I honestly think they're probably going to be good on offensive line. I mean, they just drafted a lineman last year with their first round pick in Paris Johnson Jr.
Yep.
Will Hernandez is a solid guard. DJ Humphries is a solid tackle. I mean, you don't necessarily need your O-line to be like, stacked. I mean, they could probably find some solid guys, another solid person maybe at center in a Mitch Morse that just got released from the Bills or something like that. And the receivers, if they don't end up re-signing Hollywood Brown, you're looking at Michael Wilson, Rondale Moore, who's made some plays in this league. Obviously, he's kind of small, as well as a Marvin Harrison Jr., then going with Trey McBride, who had a big season towards the end of last season. This would be another team that I would, I know I mentioned a few teams. This would be the sneaky team for L'Jarius Sneed because you can afford to give up a second rounder. You can trade down from that first or that second first rounder, trade back. You can recoup picks there. And then from there, you have a corner to go with Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson. If you do end up re-signing Antonio Hamilton, you have one really good corner. You have another one solid. You got some young guys, Zaven Collins, former first-round pick, BJ Ojolari for him on the edge. Now you can start kind of stockpiling for depth and trying to go for some guys maybe in the second round. We'll see if the second round is kind of a second, third round, or kind of a sweet spot like it's been the past few years. Obviously, because of the COVID year and some guys that may have been first round talents in other drafts being bumped down. It's seeming, the sentiment seems like outside of receivers and, offensive tackles, offensive linemen, it might not be that strong of a draft across the board. So we'll kind of see as things get closer and, we start going through pro days and stuff like that. But I do think that, in terms of their trajectory, I honestly think, Kyler, I felt the same way about Kyler last year in terms of I don't know about him, but this year he kind of showed me a little something. Like there was a clear boost, obviously, once he came back, he played well for him to have been coming off, missing majority of the season and stuff like that. So, it seems like the vibe right now is in that building that things are good. Especially after, honestly, the record's not the same, obviously, but kind of the same vibe that the Eagles had where, definitely not in terms of the talent and the depth that they had on their team, but when Sirianni was first hired, it was, oh, he's a wacky coach. He don't know what the fuck he's talking about, all this stuff. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, this team's all right, this team's all right. And then they start making some moves and you're like, oh shit, we got a juggernaut here. Now, I mean, not saying, I said,
a threat now.
They don't have the same depth. They obviously don't have the same depth in terms of the talent on their team already. But, same thing. Jonathan Gannon, everybody was saying he was doing all that stupid shit. Niggas said that he was goofy and stuff. And then, people slowly started to come around on it. And, if Kyler's been easily written off. He's still a number one overall pick. He
is.
His name has kind of been getting a little bit more of the limelight after the Johnny Manziel interview on Shannon Sharp's show, Club Shay Shay, whatever. No, not whatever. Let me not disrespect. Club Shay Shay.
Yeah. You're talking about him being, being a man in Texas.
Him being the best quarterback ever in Texas. And, that is something to say for some of the guys that's been there. Andrew Luck, Matt Stafford, Johnny Manziel himself, Baker, all these guys. But, and obviously that's fucking high school. But, Kyler has talent. For a guy that was a first overall pick, a Heisman Trophy winner, drafted in two different, professional leagues, I'm coming around on Kyler, so I'm giving him for the benefit of the doubt, and I think their trajectory is going up. He showed me a little something last year, a little something. We're gonna have to see because his first playoff game was a little rough. So
it was a little rough. I mean, we're gonna see what he does, man, with a true number one receiver.
It's gonna be a tough division.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited to see this division. Like last year, going into the season, of course, I didn't think the Rams would be where they were towards the end of that season, but it'll be competitive this year for sure.
Yeah. So before we sign off, obviously we've got free agency coming up, and there's surely by the time we record next week, there's gonna be some signings because it's gonna start a few hours before we do record. Who is the guy that you think is going to be one of the first big signings on open or the start of the new league year on Wednesday? And let's see if we get somebody right.
I think it happens early on. I think it happens Monday, actually, on the tampering. Of course, not official until Wednesday, but I think on Monday, big signing, you signing. Chris, you ready for this one?
What's up? What's up, big bro?
All right, now. Danielle Hunter. Listen what I'm saying. Danielle Hunter to the Falcons.
Watch. You hear this nonsense, Chris? You hear this nonsense? Okay. See, once again.
We'll see if we get it right.
We'll see.
No, I think the first sign would be Kirk to Minnesota too, though. But yeah.
We'll see. What say you, Chris?
Interesting. I say Sneed. Sneed's gonna be one of the first people we hear about.
Traded.
Okay. Yep. Trade. Big trade. Who? They probably already got the paperwork ready.
So you gotta stamp it down. You gotta stamp it down.
All right.
We've named a few teams now.
We did.
It's a lot of good options once you start playing it out.
Traded to the Rams.
I would like to see that. That would be nice. It's a lot of good players, and it's going to be a lot of young guys that I think that are a little bit, not maybe notable names that get signed to some decent contracts. One of the first ones that I think we're going to know about is Chris Jones, so I'm not going to go with that one. I think Chris Jones resigns with the Kansas City Chiefs. But another guy that I think goes to the Kansas City Chiefs and signs a sneaky good deal, where it's more like people are like Christian Kirk, where it's like, what? Darnell Mooney. I think Darnell Mooney ends up with Kansas City on the first day, and that's where I'm standing. I'm standing on business. I think Darnell Mooney is one of the early signings, regardless. I think it's gonna once again more of like a Christian Kirk, where people are like I think he gets signed to some pretty decent money, where people are like, whoa. Like 4 years, decent money.
Whoa. Let me get a bonus one here before we go. Christian Wilkins to the Browns.
I could see that. I could definitely see that. I could see him going to the Cardinals too.
I can see that too.
A team that's got some money that could use a D tackle, and life's good in Arizona, they say so. Going from Miami to Arizona, but we shall see. And we'll catch y'all first day of the league year starting next Wednesday. We will catch y'all then, and we'll see you then.
Yes, sir.